All right, we are officially live, I believe. Let me double check on this end to make sure I am actually live right now. And I am. Yay. Okay. So, if you're tuning in live, make sure to say hello in the comments. I'm super excited to be here because one, this is the first live stream I've had on my YouTube channel, like with everyone, not just YouTube members, since I had my daughter. So it's been a bit. I do almost monthly live streams with YouTube members, but those are like much shorter live streams and way more chill. Um, but yeah, this is the first time in a long time I am coming to you guys. So I wanted to say hello to Tracy from Texas. That's awesome. I'm just super excited because I'm here because we're celebrating 60,000 subscribers. This is a milestone I hit a while ago, but I just didn't have the time at the time to celebrate. And I also had decision fatigue on how to celebrate. Some really good ideas were put out there for other ways to celebrate. Like one of my favorite things was someone suggested that I do a video just showcasing all the different editions of my books that I've had, and that made me so excited because obviously I started publishing when I was 13, so there's a lot of different editions, but I felt like that would be better to save for a different milestone, like when we hit 75,000 subscribers on YouTube, which I feel like we can hit. That's when I'll do that video. But that's why right now we're doing the 60,000 subscriber live stream with Q&A and all that. More people are tuning in. I see someone else from Texas, Arizona. And yeah, so thank you so much to everyone tuning in. I also wanted to celebrate because tomorrow, for the first time ever, I have a Kickstarter that's going live. That Kickstarter is for this book right here, Sparks in Iceland. This is a friends to lovers sweet romance. I'm so excited, over the moon about this. There will be a YouTube video talking about it more tomorrow. So if you want to know more details about it, it'll be there. But there's two main things you can get from the Kickstarter, as well as like early access to the ebook. There's the special edition paperback, which has these lovely sprayed edges. But in the paperback, there's also, if I can find, there's some black and white photos. I'm trying to there we go. There was more. So these photos are photos that I took on my honeymoon in Iceland, and I integrated them into the appropriate spots in the book. Obviously, I'm able to write about the place because I've been there myself personally. So that's the special edition paperback. And then we have the deluxe edition hardcover. So it has this lovely jacket. It has custom sprayed edges, which I think are so cool. It doesn't technically have a ribbon bookmark. This is part of a stretch goal, but I just wanted to see how it would look. Then my personal favorite is when we take the dust jacket off, is we have this gorgeousness of a holographic cover. It's also on the spine. And I'm realizing now it's also inverted for you guys. But we also have these beautiful end papers, and they're just all these different doodles from Iceland. And it's gorgeous. And then this also has photos from Iceland, but the photos are in color. Probably not the best example. Is that photo's not the best example? Let me see if I can find a different one. There we go. You can see the color a little better in that one. And there's also different chapter headers. I don't have them printed in this book, but in the final edition of the deluxe hardcover, it's going to be a 2-page spread for the chapter headers. That's also in color. So yeah, it's a lot of work has gone into designing this. This deluxe hardcover will also be available as an annotated book as well, which, oh my God, that was so much work to create an annotated edition of this book. But I am overall just super, super excited. And I can see you guys in the comments are also excited. I see Jade is from Japan. Oh my God, that's great. I love hearing people from other countries in the comments. I think that's so cool and what makes the internet so awesome. So Like I said, the Kickstarter launches tomorrow. If you look at the description of this live stream, you should see the link to the Kickstarter if you want to follow the project on Kickstarter. But otherwise, yeah, it'll go out tomorrow. There will be a separate video on it tomorrow. If you guys have any questions about any of the Kickstarter stuff, let me know. I have so much work still to do with it. If my voice sounds funny, it's because I'm sick and I've been trying desperately to catch up on work, especially for the Kickstarter, but I'm sick and my daughter's sick and it's been a bit of a mess. Just got back from vacation too, so we like to keep it interesting over here. But I have been collecting questions for this live stream. I've been collecting on YouTube on a community post. I've also been collecting off of Instagram. But if you're tuning in for the live stream now, just ask the question here in the comments and I will try to answer it if I can. Obviously, I can't chat with you guys all night, but I'm going to try to get through as many questions as I can. I do have quite a few on my phone already. And hello from a girl and her puppy in Ontario. I love that username. Okay. Gosh, where do I start? Okay, I don't know what order I took these screenshots, so forgive me if this is not in the correct order. But from Kira's 2715, she says, would love to know how you write the copyright page and any tips and tricks there. The copyright page, I'm actually approaching my copyright page slightly different for this book than I have in the past. I feel like copyright pages are more or less cut and dry. For the most part, you are doing just like normal. It's truly nothing fancy. Like I intend to do a video on this one day, but since we're talking about it, we'll do it. So I just have the title in all caps, then I have copyright, the year, and then I do it under my company name, which is my LLC, mostly because I want to keep my legal name private. And then the following is a work of fiction, any names, places, blah, 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 is entirely coincidental. So that's like a standard copyright page thing. Then we have the ISBNs, we have the all rights reserved notice, and then we have credit. So I give credit to my illustrator and put his name. I give credit to cover design and formatting, which is technically myself, but through my company, so Stone Ridge Books. And then I also put my website, stoneridgebooks.com. I thought I put it in this edition, but let me see. There's one other thing I added, and I don't see it printed, so I'm going to have to make sure that's correct. But one other thing I added on my copyright page for my future books is a notice that the book was not written using any form of AI, and also like a notice that says you cannot use my book for AI training. Does it do anything to put that notice? No, I don't think so, but sometimes like we just do the bare minimum, but odds are that notice will do nothing. But it makes me feel a little better to have it there. So yeah, that's the copyright page. Really, the biggest thing is just having the ISBN and that little copyright symbol. And then you can also officially apply for copyright through the government. But technically, you don't need to if you email the book to yourself or if you mail the book to yourself, but it will hold up in a court of law better if you officially filed for the copyright. So yeah. And then the second part of this comment was, additionally, have you ever worked with small bookstores to promote your book? And if so, how do you invite them to check out your title for wholesale on Ingram? I've worked very limitedly with bookstores. I've had actually the best luck working with larger stores like Barnes and Noble, believe it or not. So I no longer have all of my books listed on Ingram Spark for a long list of reasons that I won't go into today. But in the past, I've done book signings with Barnes and Noble, and they ordered my books through Ingram, and I then sold the books, and they kept all the books, and then returned any books that didn't sell, which in theory sounds like an okay deal, but in reality, what ends up happening is Barnes and Noble orders like 20 copies of a book. They do minimal to no marketing. They expect the author to do all the marketing, which I get, but for me, my audience is international, and the evidence there is people from Japan, Ontario, people not from where I live. I live in Connecticut. So if I do a book signing in Connecticut, yes, I may have some followers in Connecticut, but one, did they hear about the event? Or and two, if they did hear about the event, are they even free that day? Are they willing to come that day? Like, it's a very small pool of people when I do book signing events. And me as the author am expected to do all the marketing to bring the people in. So what I'm trying to get at is the bookstore orders 20 copies of the book. It looks great at first. I sell 3 to 5 copies because at the end of the day, that's pretty average for a book signing event, especially if it's a one author book signing event. Sometimes you can have more sales if it's like a big book event with multiple authors that are bringing in multiple audiences. Um, but yeah, so you only end up selling like 5 books, and then the bookstore keeps the books to try to sell more later on, but they do nothing to promote them. They don't give you a spot at the front of the store. They just kind of put you on a random spot in a random shelf. Like, they put it in the right genre, but they don't showcase it as like signed by the author or local author. Sometimes they do, most of the time they don't, at least in my experience. That's what I found. And then when a month goes by and the books don't sell, they return them. And the bookstore gets refunded, and I lose that money that I previously had gained from those sales. Um, and I also have to pay the shipping fee. So now I'm actually losing money on these book sales. So that's why, in a long winded explanation, why I don't always recommend working with bookstores, because they tend to order too many books, which is great. It seems great at first, but realistically, they probably won't sell, and it ends up coming out of your pocket. Um, so yeah, I don't I don't know if that was the answer to your question, but you can work with bookstores. I always just, if it's a big store like Barnes and Noble, I suggest that you talk to the events manager. If it's a smaller like mom and pop sort of style store, just talk to the person at the front desk. Say, I'm a local author. I would love to do a signing. Um, Sometimes the smaller stores prefer you to bring in the inventory of the book, and that's actually what I prefer as well, because I have like 20 copies of my books on hand at all time. So if I sell them, great. If I don't sell them, also great, because I didn't lose any money because I already had those copies on hand. Um, so yeah, I prefer doing it that way, but also it's just like it's a lot of time. I used to do, when I worked full time, I would do book events almost every single weekend, and it was exhausting. But as much as I love doing bookstore events to support local and small bookstores, I actually highly, highly recommend doing vendor fairs. Um, and I might have to leave for a second. I prefer doing vendor fairs because vendor fairs tend to get a lot more foot traffic, and you're also the only author at the vendor fair. Um, so if there's a book lover at a vendor fair, you tend to make more sales. And the best book signing event that I've ever had was actually at a wine festival. So it was like an indoor wine festival. It was super cool. It was all these different wineries giving samples of their wine out. And then they also had regular vendors like me, and I was an author. And it was just people that were like maybe a little tipsy because they were getting samples of wine. And I would just say, love a good book with your wine. Like, here's a suggestion. Let me know what your reading preferences are. And of course, I have like multiple different genres. So I was able to appeal to multiple different people. That is the best event I've ever had. I haven't gone back to it just because it was all the way in New York. It was a lot of driving. Um, and it was a little more complicated of an event, but it was really worth it financially. I do have to go for 1 second because my daughter's crying. Let me see if I can put up something. I think I'm just gonna have to turn my camera off. I will be back literally in 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back. So sorry about that. um like I said, I was sick. I'm still technically a little sick, but my daughter also got sick, so I just wanted to make sure she was okay. She is. We're all good. Back to what we were chit-chatting about. So, that's my little spiel on doing book signing events. I actually would rather steer you guys in the direction of doing vendor fairs. You do have to do a lot more, like you have to get a tent and you have to get a table and you have to do your own display. But yeah, so it tends to be more financially beneficial to you as an author if you do vendor fairs. Um, but yeah, so let me go back and I'm going to answer questions in the comments before I go back to the pre-made questions. So Tina asks, how were you able to print just one book for the Kickstarter? So, so this book, the paperback edition is actually through Ingram Spark. So this is just a regular Ingram Spark paperback that I took and bought spray paint for and sprayed the edges. If you guys did not know already, I actually do custom sprayed edges for my other books, Meet Me at the Summit. So this is technically a KDP book. And I do stenciling with vinyl to do this special fancy edge. That's a lot of work, by the way, which is why for the Kickstarter, it's just going to be a solid color. So I just did this the normal way you would order a book through Ingram Spark. This fancy deluxe cover that you see is through Book Vault. And I've had so many people ask about a Book Vault review. I'm so happy to say that I will be doing a review on Book Vault, but I'm going to wait until my Kickstarter inventory comes in because my experience with ordering just one singular copy was really good, but I'm curious when I order in bulk how that process will go. So I just uploaded the files to BookVault the way you would upload to BookVault. I'll be doing a tutorial on that, no worries. And then so I uploaded the files to BookVault. And then once it was approved, which honestly, there's no fancy process for approval. As long as you use their templates, they approve it. And I just ordered one copy. It was very expensive. Like this is between the printing price and the shipping price, this is a $60 book right here because I ordered just one. And actually, it cost more to ship the book than it did to print the book because this is coming all the way from the UK because the UK is the only printer the only Book Vault printer that does all these fancy features that you see here. So yeah, the shipping price obviously will go down when I order in bulk, but this is expensive. So know that when you order one singular copy of your book, you're going to be paying an arm and a leg, mostly because of the shipping, not because of the printing. Let's see. Here's another question. Does it cost money to self-publish? Technically, depending on which printer you use, it can be completely free to self-publish. I have multiple videos covering the self-publishing costs and things that you can do to make it as budget friendly as possible. You can publish it for free. That does not mean that you should. I firmly believe in hiring an editor, but I also firmly believe in working with beta readers and just other random readers to help you during the editing process. But I do believe that at some point before you publish your book, you should hire a professional editor. I also think if you aren't familiar with cover design and formatting, that you should consider hiring someone. You can do the DIY route if you feel like you're good at that sort of thing. I actually have courses on how to format your book in Adobe InDesign. I also have courses on how to design your book cover using Adobe Photoshop. Those are actually linked down below if you want to check that out. If you're someone who plans on publishing dozens of books, it is very beneficial to learn how to do that stuff yourself. If you're publishing a one-off, just hire someone else to do it. It's probably going to be a lot easier that way. But yeah, when it comes to the actual publishing process, like if you're using KDP to actually upload and hit the publish button, it's completely free. The only time you have to pay for KDP is when you're ordering a copy or inventory of your book. So yeah, otherwise it's free because then KDP kind of is like, okay, this you're charging like $14.99 for the book, but it costs this much to print, and then this is how much we take out for our cut, and then you get this as royalties. Is kind of how that works. Um, so yeah, goodness. Okay. So Kira asks, when you have fairs and have to buy wholesale, do you buy those through KDP at cost? And then you must have to worry about sales tax, right? So, yes, and actually that whole sales tax thing is why I stopped selling, why I no longer do that event in New York, because technically every time you sell in a different state, you need to apply for the sales tax license. I can't remember what it's called, but you need some sort of license for when you're selling something in a different state. So I have a sales tax license for Connecticut. I'm like 99% sure I'm calling it the wrong thing. So don't take my word for it in terms of the name of stuff. But yeah, so I do everything through the Square app. Which is just an app you can download on your phone, and then you can get the little card reader that plugs into your phone. I don't think I have it up here right now. Actually, I do. So there. I would have to take the case off, but this is it, like plugs into an iPhone. You can also get one that just does an audio jack, but you plug it in, and then then there's another. So this is the adapter. My bad. I apparently only have the adapter on me, but the actual card reader is like a little square and you swipe a card through it, and that's how you're able to take credit cards at signing events. When I signed up, it was actually free to get that little card reader for my phone. The adapter wasn't free, but the card reader was free. But that makes it possible to take credit cards at events. And then when you set up your inventory use in the Square app, you're able to say the price and then what also the sales tax amount is. So then that tracks the sales tax and charges the sales tax. And then basically, when you apply to your state for the sales tax license, I believe it's once a quarter. I personally do it. No, yeah, it's once a quarter. I was thinking of something else. So once a quarter, you'll get like an email being like, you need to submit your sales tax information, and then you kind of just put in how much you sold. They tell you how much you owe, and then you pay it. And I just use the Square app to keep track of it, and technically also Shopify, because I use Shopify for my stoneridgebooks.com website where I also sell stuff. But you can use Shopify to sell at in-person events, but I had the Square app before I had Shopify, so I just use Square instead of Shopify. It really doesn't matter. That's just personal preference. And then when I buy wholesale, I do buy wholesale through KDP because KDP is the cheapest and they're still awesome quality in my opinion. And I just buy them as author copies. So I'm only paying the cost to print the book, and then shipping if you don't have Amazon Prime. So yeah. Um, I'm trying to see if there's any other issue or any other questions. Oh, someone here is saying, I wish KDP would alert you when there is a sale. Yes, same. I wish the same thing, because sometimes I think what happens behind the scenes is KDP will sometimes print multiple copies of your book, and they'll have like 10 copies of your book sitting on a shelf somewhere. And when they don't move fast enough, I think they just put the book on sale so they can clear that shelf. That's kind of what my theory is, why sometimes there's like this random sale of your book that's typically a really good price. And even though it's on sale, Amazon is the one that's taking the cut in money, not the author. So even though it's at a sale price, you still get your full royalty price. So yeah, I same thought process is I wish they would alert us as well when there was a sale. You just have to kind of keep an eye on your book on Amazon to see when there's a sale so you can alert people to be like, "Hey, buy my book, it's on sale." Okay, back to the asked questions. This is another one from Kira's 2715. Additionally, are there any working groups or communities for self-published authors besides this channel, of course, that you'd recommend for new authors to find community? I'm sure there is. I'm not a good person to ask because I like to say I made my little friend, my author friend group very early on. And I all these people that are in my little friend group are also people that I've met in person. And I'm realizing that I'm so close with these people because I've physically met them in person. And now that especially now that I'm writing in a new genre, I'm now writing in sweet romance, whereas before I was writing in like young adult and thriller and blah blah blah. Um, I'm writing in this new genre, so I'm like, oh, I would love to make, friends with other authors in the sweet romance genre to really like cross promote each other and to like do critique partner stuff and all of that jazz. And I'm like, I have no idea how to make friends. So and I realized I don't know how to make friends because all the friends that I did make are people that I've met in person at like writing retreats. So yeah, I don't know how to give good advice. I will say, if you want to make friends with other authors, just, be interactive with other authors online. It starts that way. And then hopefully you guys just chat more. There's, I'm sure, a ton of Facebook groups. There's, I'm sure, Discord groups. I personally have been really just diving headfirst into the Kickstarter for Authors Facebook group lately because of obviously I have my Kickstarter. Um, but yeah, there's obviously tons of communities out there, and I'm just not a good resource for finding them because I tend to live in my little safe bubble. But if you personally are part of some sort of community of authors, feel free to leave a link down below, so we can all share and chat and make friends. So yeah, let's see. What other questions do we have? We have from Angel's Ashes. If you could do it all again, what would you do differently? And also, this person has a ton of questions. So I'm going to go one by one. Um, if I could do it differently, I am a firm believer in the attitude of it was meant to be, it happened this way because I need to learn something. Um, so like the only thing I would change is that I wish there was someone there to tell me, like, in 5 years, 10 years from now, this is where you'll be at, and just to give me, like, the peace of mind that I was going in the right direction. Because there were so many times, and there still are currently in my author career, where I question everything. I question what I'm doing, the decisions I've made. I question how I approach things. And I'm just like, I don't, I feel like sometimes I truly don't know what I'm doing, like to this day. So I'm very happy with how I've gotten to where I am in my career. I wish in the past that I wasn't so stressed about it. Um, like I remember way back when I first got published, the title of teen author was so important to me, and I have no idea why. I think it was just like I thought it would be better to be published as a teen author, that it would sound better, that it'd be cooler, that I was more marketable. So I like super super pushed myself during that age range. And sometimes I wish that I had just taken a chill pill and been like, your age doesn't matter, the quality of your book matters. Um, and just been like, it doesn't matter if you get published as a teenager. What matters is if you just accomplish it eventually. It doesn't matter when you accomplish it. And this is before I even self published because I tried really hard to traditionally publish at the beginning. And let's just put it this way, I'm glad I was rejected so many times because I needed all those rejections to do the rewrites that were necessary to create a decent book. And of course, there's definitely some things that I can pinpoint in my past where I'm like, I wish I didn't do that. That was embarrassing. That was cringy, whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, I needed to do those things to learn a lesson in some way, shape, or form. So that's the long and short of it. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Okay, I see other questions. So, um, I'm trying to make sure my screen stays awake over here. So here's a question. In the event my book is still in the rough draft process when I'm a new parent, how do I juggle writing and taking care of a baby either by myself or helping my wife? So, obviously, I've just been through this. And I'm assuming, yeah, new parent, so first kid. It to be totally frank, you can't do both, especially in the beginning. Um In the first 3 months of my daughter's life, I did not even think about working. And then at the 3-month mark, I tried to get back into YouTube because to me, YouTube felt the easiest. YouTube felt the most comfortable, like the least hard. It felt like the easiest path to normalcy. And at the time, I was so desperately looking for a sense of normal. Like, my life had been upheavaled so much and everything, like, it felt like in a way that my life had been destroyed. Like, everything that I loved and cherished about my life had been, like, ripped away from me during the newborn process. Um, and I struggled a lot with postpartum depression. I'll be extremely upfront about that. I truly didn't feel like myself again until around the 1 year mark. I remember saying, like, oh, I'm starting to feel like myself again around the 6 month mark. But it wasn't till my daughter was like a year that I felt like we had a swing of things, that I knew how to work and to take care of my daughter and take care of myself all at the same time. Just give yourself a lot of grace. Plan for the first 6 year to accomplish nothing and be proud of whatever you do end up accomplishing. Like, truly, that's the best advice I can give, is to really not push yourself and to give, like, to allow yourself as much space to figure out how to be a parent. Because it is the biggest change in your life. Um, and I remember just feeling like I would never get to back to the things that I enjoyed doing again, and that's just not the case. It truly is just like it's such a short period of time, but in the moment it feels so long and so awful, mostly because you're not sleeping. Um, but you do eventually get to juggle writing and taking care of a baby as they get older, as the naps get more consistent, as they learn to fall asleep on their own and you don't have to just be holding them 24/7. Um, so yeah, I think it was when around 8 months where my daughter started to nap better and longer, and it felt like a godsend. So now I do exclusively work when she's asleep. I don't work when she's awake. But I also found I do all the housework when she's awake. I do all the errands when she's awake. I do everything besides work while she's awake, because not only does it set a good example for her to see these things and learn these things and be in new environments by going grocery shopping rather than waiting for her dad to be home so he can watch her so I can go grocery shopping. It's like, no, drag her through drag her through everything, and then when she's napping, that's when I work. So yeah, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later because I know there's a question in here about um more details about how my work schedule works. So yeah. um let's see, would you consider having a bonus oh, hold on, would you consider having a Barnes and Noble leather bound edition of your books? I assume that's what that is, and that's just a typo. um, I think that sounds really cool. I don't know how to do a leather bound edition of my books. So, I think that's something really cool, especially for fantasy books. I don't know if I've ever seen like a sweet romance book have leather bound, but I think for fantasy that's really awesome. So for me, maybe not doing I probably wouldn't do a leather bound, but I think if you wrote fantasy that would be really cool. Um, what software did you use for digital author annotations? So I just formatted my book the same way I would in Adobe InDesign. And then what I did was, since it was already in Adobe InDesign, I used the line tool in Adobe InDesign to underline whatever annotations, or like, you know how in a book when you're reading it, you highlight or underline. Um, I just did that in Adobe InDesign, and then I created a separate text box with the different like actual annotations, and they're also color coded. Um, so it's really like, I know people are going to ask for a video on how to do digital annotations in Adobe InDesign. It's actually a super simple process. Like, if you already know how to format your book in Adobe InDesign, the adding the annotations part of things is super simple. The creating this annotations, that's the complicated process, because like I had to read my book, annotate my entire book. Like, that was great, but then I had to take those annotations in the physical copy of my book and then translate them to the digital copy of my book, and that was a whole thing. Um so yeah, I guess if enough people ask about how a tutorial on the digital annotations, I'll do it, but it's actually a pretty simple process. Um okay. Let's see. Okay. Let me go back to the questions, cuz I think I caught up on all the questions in here. What would you tell yourself if you visited yourself before you started? Oh, I guess I technically already answered this question, but I would tell myself to take a chill pill, to not be so stressed. Um, I was in a rush. I was in a rush to accomplish things. And it was a great driver for motivation, but I think it cost me a lot of stress. And I just wish that I hadn't pushed myself so hard to the point that this thing that I love to do wasn't feeling fun, because I felt like I wasn't accomplishing things fast enough. Because my career was not overnight. If you look back, my YouTube channel is pretty old. And it took a lot of building to get to where I am at this point. And I've been really hard on myself on the fact that I'm not an overnight success. But at the same time, I know that sometimes it just takes a long time for things to build, and that's okay. Um, what are you glad you did not do? Ooh, in my career? I don't know if I'd be able to remember any specific ideas that I've had where I'm like, "Oh, I wanna do this," and then I didn't do it. Because to be totally honest, I'm definitely the type of person where if an opportunity presents itself, I can't help myself. Where if I get an idea, sometimes I have to follow through on it, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. So, I guess I'll leave that there. But, I I can't think of anything where I'm like, "Oh, here's an idea that I didn't do." Or if that did happen, it wasn't significant enough for me to remember it. Because there's a lot of stupid things that I've done that were frankly just a waste of time in my career. What are overrated or underrated tips and strategies? Ooh, okay. Um, I really hate overarching terms like that, because I think most every tip is a good tip when it's given to the right person. I don't think all advice is all encompassing for everyone. And when it comes to tips, mine keeps going towards marketing. That's probably because I used to work like in corporate marketing, so like that's where my brain always goes. So like I'm thinking one thing I really got into was marketing on TikTok, and doing like TikTok shop, which at first was really good for me, but I swear to God, it's like TikTok just gives you good views at the beginning to give yourself like that little bit of motivation, and then they just like cut you off, and then you're just always dying for those big view numbers again. Um so like I was real into like the TikTok strategy of things, of doing the like 20 photo slideshows on TikTok. And I just found it didn't work for me. Like, I really didn't. I don't think my books market well to that either, like sweet romance. It's really like the people that do that type of 20 slideshow marketing are more into the spicy romance sort of thing. It is a thing for sweet romance, but it's way more niche, especially on TikTok. So it just, I found that not all advice works for everyone, and that's okay. That doesn't make it bad advice. It just means it didn't work for you or your book in particular. Um, for me, what I found has helped a lot lately was really just honing in on one platform, Instagram Reels to be specific, specific to my author Instagram at author Mandi Lynn Bell. That's kind of almost exclusively where I post now because I'm trying to sell my books. And also YouTube Shorts, oddly enough. I actually started a second YouTube channel for author Mandi Lynn Bell just to upload. Like, I take my Instagram Reels and re-upload them to YouTube Shorts, and they actually perform pretty well. I think because no one else is doing that. So the issue there is that right now I've gotten good traction with Instagram, and sometimes the content you create for Instagram doesn't translate well to TikTok. But if you export a video on Instagram, it exports without audio, whereas a video on TikTok exports with audio. So if I take an Instagram reel and re-upload it to YouTube as a short, I have to add audio, and it just doesn't always work. So lately I've been almost exclusively posting to Instagram Reels, but I have found there is some traction with uploading to YouTube Shorts. So take that with what you will, but I'm just saying, with zero audience on YouTube, you can upload to YouTube Shorts and get like at least 1,000 views pretty easily. So yeah. Um I guess that's underrated, is uploading your book to YouTube Short. Yeah, uploading your Instagram Reels or TikToks to YouTube Shorts. Um so yeah. Let's see, we have another question. Who is your biggest helper slash mentor slash inspiration? So there's actually two of my closest author friends are Bethany Atazeta and Brittany Wang. I met Brittany at BookCon in like 2018, I want to say. I think it was 2018. We had met first technically on Instagram, and then I saw she was going to be at BookCon, and then we also found out we were both from Connecticut, so we met up at BookCon and basically have been friends ever since. And then Bethany, I met at one of the writing retreats, and Bethany and Brittany already knew each other, I believe, through college or something like that. But anyway, so the three of us have been like mentors to each other for literally years now, especially in 2020 when I got laid off from my job. I was chatting with them, and we were talking about how we should do like monthly live streams. And basically, from 2020 until I gave birth, we chatted with each other every single month, just business stuff. Like we would take turns doing brainstorming sessions. I believe it was once a month. No, it was weekly. I'm sorry. We were saying if we want to continue it, it would have to be once a month. We would chat every week to brainstorm marketing, writing, publishing strategies, and we would just bounce ideas off of each other. And basically, between the periods of between the timeline of 2020 and 2023, anything that the three of us created, we chatted about. So if you saw me do something online, like a big marketing strategy or publishing strategy, or you saw them do something marketing or publishing wise, odds are the three of us brainstormed and chatted about it beforehand behind the scenes and got everyone's feedback and advice before anything happened to you guys on screen. So yeah, those two ladies are my biggest mentors, the biggest people that I go to for advice, my closest author friends. Um, we've done collaborations a little bit in the past. We haven't done collaborations recently just because busy. And unfortunately, now that we all have children, it is nearly impossible for us to chat on a regular basis. So we actually haven't done video chatting since I gave birth, which I'm super bummed about. But we do chat on a regular basis still and still brainstorm and mentor each other, but not to the same level that we used to. Um, but yeah, so that's what I mean where I said earlier where I'm like, I made friends at the very beginning and now I don't know how to make new friends. Those are my friends. I have other friends too, but those are my closest author confidants that I discuss everything with before I do anything. Um okay, so here's a comment. How do you find time to write and balance a work schedule? So, for those of you who don't know, I actually am self employed. YouTube and writing and my courses are my full time job, they are my income. I got laid off in 2020, and that was my biggest blessing ever. At the time, it actually felt like my world was shattering. This was right before COVID happened, by the way. And I realized when I got hired for that job, I learned that they basically made up the position for me to hire me, and I believe they intended to eventually lay me off, and I just didn't realize that going into the job, and then I got laid off and I was really upset about it. But again, it ended up being a huge blessing because it kind of forced me to go all in on my business. And it took a couple of months, but eventually I was able to make just as much as I did at my full-time job and then of course surpass it. And I was way less stressed. I was way happier. I realized I was finally doing the thing I enjoyed. So I don't work full time, full disclosure. And now that's an even bigger blessing because I get to stay home full time with my daughter. But anyone who has a small child knows that it's incredibly hard to get things done. So I've done a couple of vlogs. You'll see a vlog, I believe, come out later this week of like a day in the life. Um, and my day in the life is more or less the same most for the most part, where my husband also works night shifts, so I should state that as well. So, whereas most families hang out in the afternoon at the end of the day, our family hangs out at the beginning of the day. So, we wake up, we eat breakfast, we hang out. When my husband goes to work, I take my daughter to the gym. The gym has daycare. I work out. She plays and socializes. I take her home. We eat lunch. I shower while she plays in her room. And then she takes a nap, which is usually like 2 to 3 hours. I work during her nap time. Then she wakes up. We do whatever activity we have for the afternoon, eat dinner, clean the house, go for a walk, play outside, blah, blah, blah. And then after dinner, she goes to bed. She loves to sleep. I will say that because she sleeps 2 to 3 hours every day, or yeah, for nap time. And then she goes to bed at like 7 o'clock on the dot typically. So then when she goes to bed, I work, and sometimes I work till like 11 p.m. at night because my husband gets home around like midnight, and I've just found it really sucks to go to bed for like an hour or two and then have my husband wake me up, so it's just easier to stay up until he gets home. So I get to chill for an hour before he gets home, and then we go to bed. It's very exciting. So yeah, I get a decent amount of work in during the day. Like I said earlier, I almost exclusively work during her naps. I try my best not to do housework while she's napping because that time is precious. And I can do dishes while she's awake, and I can vac while she's awake. I can do all the things while she's awake. Cleaning toilets is a little hard while she's awake, but it's possible. What I cannot do while she's awake is work because this girl yanks the laptop out of my hands. And she cries if I sit at the table. So, yeah, that's that's kind of our work schedule, and it's not always like that. But the grind days where I'm really working and being super productive, that's what they look like. But sometimes on Wednesday, I go and hang out with my friend because she has Wednesdays off. Um, Sometimes on Fridays, my mom comes to our house to watch my daughter, or I go to her house and she'll watch my daughter, but that's not always the case. But what I'm trying to say is like we figured out this schedule and it works really well. And I've also found if I'm in the process of writing or working on a book, because I'm not writing or working on a book every single day. I go in phases where I'm writing a book, where I'm editing a book, or the book's with beta readers, or the book's basically done. Like right now, Sparks and Iceland is done, and I haven't started writing a new book yet. And I'm just doing all this admin book work. But when I am working on actively writing or editing a book, I tend to do my admin stuff during her nap time, and I write during her bedtime because sometimes it's really hard for me to get into the writing zone when I know she could wake up at any moment. And I am just not the type of person who can write in small pockets of time. I can do admin work in small pockets of time. I can do most anything but writing in small pockets of time. But when it comes to writing, I really like it takes me like a half an hour to get into the zone. So to then be interrupted when my daughter wakes up is really bothersome. So I tend to only write at night. And the sucky part of being a parent is sometimes by the time she's in bed, I'm exhausted and I don't want to write anymore. So it's not a perfect process, but it's a process. Let's see. Does Barnes and Noble Press distribute to Barnes and Noble stores, and does it have the same return issue you described with the Ingram Spark? Barnes and Noble Press only distributes to Barnes and Noble. So they distribute to barnesandnoble.com. And then if a Barnes and Noble store wants to order your book, they can. That does not mean they will. They will only order your book if you're doing an event or if someone requests a copy. As well, as far as the return issue goes, where they like order the book and then they need to return the book and they charge you for shipping because they had to ship the book back to you. I don't know because I don't have that personal experience. I'm going to assume yes, they will charge you shipping. But I've only ever printed test copies through Barnes and Noble. I've never actually published through Barnes and Noble Press. So yeah. Let me go back to the other questions. So this is Angel Faye Writer. I've been following your channel for 3 years and loving content. I'm also one of your students in your book cover bundle. Also a fellow author, designer, and new mom of 7-month-old baby girl. Congratulations on your daughter. How do you divide your time between the three? I won't be able to join the stream. Okay, so you'll be watching on the rerun. So yeah. So like I said earlier, it's really just it's just a matter of I quite literally only use when my daughter is asleep for working. And learning when you work best. So like I said earlier, I have a hard time writing in small pockets of time. So I only write when my daughter goes to bed. I don't typically write during her nap time. I will, but sometimes I also don't write during her nap time because like there's admin work that has to get done before I can sit down to write for the day. So sometimes the nap time just takes up all of that admin work that's answering emails and doing all that annoying stuff. And I can't focus on writing unless I know that thing is done. So that's kind of why my workflow works that way. And you'll see in action in the vlogs. I don't vlog nearly as much as I used to, mainly because some days it's just like survival, trying to get things done. But also because my daughter is such a huge part of my life right now, and I don't want her on camera, or if she is on camera, I blur her face, and it's just really annoying to blur video footage sometimes. So yeah. Okay. Let's see what else did I have more questions. This is from Deborah Pete or Pettit, maybe. How do you, as a mom and author, find pockets of time to write and market? So I already told you guys earlier. I'm realizing now I'm probably repeating myself. Is yeah that I work during nap times and I only work during nap and bedtime. Truly, the sooner as a parent you can learn to get household chores done while your kid is awake, the better. Not only because then you'll be more efficient during nap and bedtime with your time, but also because it's just so beneficial for your kids to see you doing these things that as they get older they'll be expected to do as well. um there was a book I read, I can't remember which book it was at this point. I think it was the Hunt Gather Parent book. If you Google that, it should pop up. But the Hunt Gather Parent book was basically saying that if you expect your kids to do chores, they need to be a part of chores from day one. And this doesn't mean that they need to do chores when they're an infant, but it means they need to witness chores when they're an infant. So when I do dishes, a lot of the time I'll set up our little toddler tower and my daughter will stand at the tower and watch me do dishes because she's a part of these chores. And basically, if you need to do dishes and you sit your kid in front of a screen or you sit your kid in front of toys and say, play with these toys while I do the dishes, you're basically telling your kid that it's my job to do the dishes and it's your job to play with toys. And then when you eventually expect them to do the dishes, it'll be like a huge dynamic shift for them. And that dynamic shift won't be as obvious when they've been a part of the chore process from day one, even if they're not physically doing anything and they're just witnessing it. So, yeah. Um, da, 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 da. Let's see. Okay, we have another question coming in. Does the grade level of my book affect my ability to get it into libraries and academic institutions? I'll be honest, I don't totally know. I know obviously when you're doing the publishing process and also even setting up your ISBN, you can set up the grade level of your book. I'm sure it's something that like schools will look into. Like let's say it's a school library and they're ordering a book and they want to make sure it's age appropriate. They'll probably look into it in that sense. But I don't know how much of an impact it has on libraries and academic institutions. My guess is if someone requests for a library to order a certain book, the library is going to order that book regardless of the grade level. Um, and because frankly, at the end of the day, that's what's going to cause a library to order your book is that a person will request it. A library is not going to just order your book because your book exists. Like it needs to be heard of. It needs to be wanted. Like libraries have budgets. They're not going to order some book that they've never heard of just because the cover's cool. So yeah. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions in the comments, but I think Oh, hold on. There's a question here. You finished a book. Wait, you finished a book and published it? So, I finished Sparks in Iceland. Like it's done. As in, it's written. It's fully edited. It's actually even fully proofread because I was very paranoid about the proofreading process this time around. But it's not published yet. So this this goes live on Kickstarter tomorrow. So mark your calendars. It's linked in the description of this live stream. You can follow the Kickstarter. But even though it goes live on Kickstarter, it actually doesn't go live and published everywhere on Amazon until October. Originally it was going to be September, but I pushed it back to October for a long list of reasons I'm not going to go into. But yeah. And this is an adult book, but it's only adult because the characters are adults. It doesn't have any adult content. It's sweet romance, so it actually has no swears. It has no explicit content, but the two main characters are adults, and they're friends. They're lifelong friends that are traveling to Iceland together, and they have to confront their feelings. And it's a very fun book. It's a rom-com. It's my favorite book I've ever written, but I feel like I say that about every book I publish. So, yeah. Let's see. There are a few new comments. What are the types of vanity publishing companies that I need to look out for? I have strong feelings about vanity publishing. So vanity publishing can be one of two things. There's let's call it the good vanity publishing, where you're basically just paying someone to publish your book for you. That's the good version. Then there's the scam vanity publishing, where you're also paying someone to publish your book, but they don't actually publish your book and they just spam you. I personally don't like either of them. I don't think there's any world in which you should hire someone else to publish your book for you. I think you should hire freelancers. I think you should hire an editor. I think you should hire a cover designer if you don't know how to do that. I think you should hire a book formatter if you don't know how to do that. I do not think you should hire someone to publish your book for you, because there are so many resources online, my YouTube channel included, where we teach you how to publish your book online for free. And I think it's more important that you understand the publishing process than taking the easy route and hiring someone to do it for you, because at the end of the day, marketing trends change and publishing trends change, and you have to keep up with those changes. But you can't if you hire someone to publish your book for you, because every time you need to change something behind the scenes, you're going to have to hire someone to do stuff again, and it's just not worth it. And I like, even if it's a reputable company, in a way, I don't want to call it a scam, because if they're actually giving you the services, it's not a scam, but you are selling yourself short, because you can do better. Like, you can figure it out. Like, I believe in you. If you wrote the book, you can publish the book. So yeah. Uh, let's see. Okay, so I think that's that. I'm gonna move on to another question. This comes from DC Connor. How would you create a channel to cater to readers versus fellow writers? So this comment is in relation to how I've talked about that the hardest thing in my fiction career is marketing my fiction books, because I have this great platform on YouTube, but it's not a platform like aimed towards readers. It's a platform aimed towards writers. So when I create content or products for other writers, it does really well. But when I create content for readers, it doesn't necessarily do well, because if you're a writer, you may not necessarily like what I write in particular, which is okay. It's just really hard having a YouTube channel where I talk about the writing process, but I write specifically sweet romance, or at least now I do. I used to jump genres, but now I write just sweet romance. So like, part of me wishes that I had from the beginning done a YouTube channel just about books, and specifically the genre of books that I write, because if all I did was talk about the genre of books that I write, then it would have been really easy to market the books that I write. But at the end of the day, that's not really the content I like to consume. I am quote unquote an author tube channel. I am a YouTube channel for authors about the publishing process. Um, but to be the most successful in terms of marketing for my books, what I should have done was to create a booktube channel where I talk about books and reading and that type of thing. And I used to consume that content, but I never made that content. And frankly, I think I tried it once or twice, like making book focused and reading focused content, but I didn't enjoy it. Like, I really enjoy the teaching process and I enjoy helping other authors. I also enjoy just documenting my own author journey. Um, so like it by the book, I should have done a booktube channel, had a YouTube channel about reading and about the genre of books that I write. That would have performed best marketing wise, but that's not what I did and that's not what I enjoy doing. So sometimes you have to go in whatever direction that feels good as a creator. And to me, having a booktube channel wouldn't have felt right. Like, I wouldn't, my heart would not have been in the content that I created. So because of that, yes, of course I promote my fiction books here on this YouTube channel, but I cannot rely on this YouTube channel as a marketing platform for my books. So that's actually why was it a year or two ago, I think, I started a totally separate newsletter. I started a totally separate website, a totally separate Instagram, even now a YouTube channel, but it's just for YouTube shorts. I talked about that earlier. It's nothing fancy. I have a completely separate account and persona and platform for my fiction books. And ever since I've done that, I felt way more aligned when it comes to marketing. The difficult part there is now I have two of everything. I have two newsletters, I have two Instagrams, and then I have two of everything else. Um, so lately, you'll really notice that when it comes to posting nonfiction content about the publishing process, I'm really only active here on YouTube and in my newsletter. But when it comes to social media, I'm the most active on author Mandi Lynn Bell, because my author Mandi Lynn Bell social media, where I promote my fiction books, thrives, and it just feels like too much work to post to Instagram and everywhere else for, like, I don't enjoy doing short form content for these tutorials. I It just doesn't, like, I like long form content. I like doing these YouTube videos. If I can kind of recreate that content and put it on Instagram as shorts and YouTube shorts, I'll do that. But I'm not going out of my way to create content for those platforms. Whereas I go out of the way to create content for my author Mandi Lynn Bell platforms because that is how I market my books. Um, gosh, okay. Let's see. Do you know of any good or at least decent independent publishing platforms? Okay. If they are independent publishing platforms, I that sounds like a vanity press. Are you the same person who asked about the vanity press earlier? I don't think you were. I'm not familiar with this company, the Exebris. I'm not sure who they are. And again, I'm not familiar with any sort of publishing platforms where you hire people to publish your book for you for the reasons that I stated earlier, where I think you're better off learning how to do it yourself rather than hiring someone to do it. What are beta readers? I've heard of them, but don't have anyone to send my story to so that they could beta read it. So beta readers are just people that are your first readers of your book. They read a rough draft of your book, they give you feedback on it, and you take their feedback and you use it to edit your book. Essentially, for me, they take the place of developmental editors. Um, and the way I find beta readers is I have my author newsletter and I send out an email in my author newsletter saying I'm looking for beta readers, and they apply to be a beta reader through a Google form, and I choose who my beta readers will be based on how they fill out the Google form. Because at the end of the day, who your beta readers are do matter, because if you write a sweet romance but the person who is a beta reader prefer, like, their favorite genre is horror or their favorite genre is spicy romance, and you write, that's a better example. So let's say the person fills out the form and they say they love spicy romance, but your book is a sweet romance where it has no spice. They're not going to be a good beta reader because they're going to be like, this scene is boring, where's the spice? And that doesn't mean the scene is boring, it just means that they're not your ideal reader. So you want to pick out beta readers and make sure that they're a good fit for your book. Okay. How would I make a writing schedule? I have a full-time job that I get up at 5 a.m. and don't get home until 4:30 or 5 p.m. I could only write on the weekends or when I have a vacation. So sometimes when you work full-time, you have to make time. I can say this as someone who, before I had my daughter, I did work full-time. I did YouTube, I would say full-time because I was posting weekly videos. And then I also wrote, and then I also did events on the weekends. I didn't have time to write, but I found time to write. That meant either waking up early or staying up late. Um, you can write during your lunch breaks, you can write after dinner. It really comes down to finding out where you're wasting time. Like if you're the type of person who binges Netflix, maybe it's time to cut out an episode or two so you can use that time to write instead. Um, sometimes it does mean working a lot. But it comes down to how badly do you want to write this book? Because if it really matters to you, you're gonna make the time. And that's a bit of tough love, but it's advice either way. Um da, 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 da. Okay. I think this is the last question I had screenshot. So we might be wrapping this up soon, which is good because I didn't realize for how long I've talked at this point. This comes from Holly Joe Flora. What's the biggest difference in your writing from your first book to your newest book? So let's grab Essence right here. This is my debut novel. This is not the original cover. I don't have the original cover in the room with me. It's in the other room. Let me go grab it. I'll be right back. It's literally just like a couple feet away. Let's see. Okay. This is a fun question to end on, I think, because we're going back in time. So this is the original copy of Essence. Not the original draft, because technically the spine was different. And I'm also realizing this one like misprinted because the E on the spine is like off to the side. But anywho, so fun fact about this cover is I designed this myself, and that's me on the cover. We took this photo on location in New Hampshire. The book takes place in New Hampshire. The location in New Hampshire is called Phantom Lagoon, but in real life it's called Sabaday Falls. So if you ever find yourself in the White Mountains in New Hampshire, drive on the Kangamingas Highway, visit Sabaday Falls, and you'll be able to find this. Anytime I'm in the area, or no, when I don't go when I'm in the area because I'm actually in the area a lot because I love New Hampshire. Anytime I go to Sabaday Falls, I stand on this rock and take this photo because I can't help myself. So I have many photos of me standing on this rock. The most recent one is me standing on this rock with my daughter, and it's cute. So, yeah, so this is my debut novel. There's a couple of big differences because one, my pen name has changed. So originally Mandi Lynn, now it's Mandi Lynn Bell, and this is just because when I wrote when I started writing in sweet romance, I changed my pen name to Mandi Lynn Bell to kind of give myself a fresh start and to differentiate my books a little bit more. And honestly, it's one of the best decisions that I've ever made. I was a little terrified to make that change, but I'm so glad that I did because I quite literally started from zero for my newsletter, for Instagram, for everything. And it felt like just not a good decision, but it was a good decision at the time. It's because my platforms are still small, but I feel like I'm finally reaching the right readers. So, anyways, the name change is a big change. I think I still write in. What did I write in? Let's see. Yeah, so I wrote in first person present, and I believe I still write in first person present. Let me double check my work. Yes, I do. So I know for a lot of people that's an odd thing. I think in She's Not Here, I actually wrote in third person. Uh But I have to actually read the book to like really know. Sorry, guys. I should have researched myself. Yeah. Yeah. So I believe I don't quote me on this, but for She's Not Here, I wrote it in third person. This is the only book I've ever written in third person. And every now and then, especially these days, I when I write first drafts, I am very guilty of randomly writing in third person during the drafting process. Usually because as I'm reading a book that's in third person and then I go to writing my book, I forget that my book is supposed to be in first person. And then I start writing, or no, I'm sorry. Let me restart. In the first draft process, I flip-flop between writing in past and present. So it should be written in present tense, but because most books are written in past tense, when I read a book in my free time for fun and then I sit down to write, I accidentally start writing in past tense when it should be written in first tense. And this happens often. Especially what tends to happen is when I start a new chapter, first page of that chapter will be in past tense, and then as I continue to write, it'll go back to present tense. So I know to always look out for that when I go to edit my books because I almost always do that. It's an awful trait that I have. Um Someone's asking, what is writing in first, second, and third person? Okay. I'm not the best person to talk to about this, but first person is, and I say I'm not the best person to talk to because I'm just not good at explaining grammar stuff. Um First person is you're in the shoes of the character, you're in that person's point of view. So you're using things like I said blah blah blah. And then second person is like you're writing a letter to someone. Like you said, but you said this, you said that. I've actually only ever read one book that was in second person, and it was also a graphic novel. And it was like, it was the book Why We Broke Up. I believe that was the title of it. So if you want to look into a book that's written completely in second tense, um, second person, that's the book to look to. And then third person is like there's a narrator looking over everything. So it's like Sam said, he said, that sort of thing. I feel like I probably didn't do a good job explaining it, but that's the explanation. So yeah, anyways, let me go back to comparing my two books because I realized I didn't say the main thing that I wanted to say between Essence and Sparks in Iceland. The biggest differences is that this was written from a very emotional place. Like I used to say, even though I wrote in many different genres, the thing that linked all my books together was that they were very emotional books. The goal was that the books would make you cry. That is not the case anymore. So, now with Sparks in Iceland, it's a true rom-com. This book should not make you cry. If it made you cry, I'd be questioning a lot of things. The goal of this book is to make you laugh. Like it's literally a lighthearted, makes you feel good book. Like the type of books that you're like, I want a book to read on the beach in the summer. I want a book to read on vacation. Something fun and flirty and just like lighthearted. That's what this book is. These books, like my first couple of books, basically up until The Trail to You and Me, um or even this series technically, because The Trail to You and Me has like one or two like little emotional moments. I don't think they're make you cry moments, but they refer to make you cry moments. So um my goal for my first books was like, let's put it this way, angsty teen. I was an angsty teen. I was very emotional, and the way I expressed myself was through my books. So therefore, here we are, books. In fact, I've had I Am Mercy, which is this book right here. It's my second book. I've seen reviews of this book online where people have said it was too depressing. I didn't finish it. I actually really like this book, but I can't disagree with that review. is like the first half of the book takes place during the Black Plague in France, and it just is a lot of people dying. And also my husband made fun of me for a very long time because he said I killed off the parents in every single books that I wrote. Proud to say, in Sparks in Iceland, everyone is alive. So I guess that's another difference, is that my parents are no longer dead in any of the books that I write. So yeah, I know I don't kill people off in my books anymore. That's the biggest difference. Um, so is that where we end this live stream? And if, in case you guys were wondering, that's my mom. She says, "Thank goodness, because I'm not killing parents off in my books anymore." It I was not writing based off of real life, okay? I was just an angsty teenager. I expressed my emotions that way. It was a healthy outlet, I think. I'll let you guys be the judge of that. I think I turned out okay. Um Anyways, I am going to wrap this live stream up here because my Kickstarter goes live tomorrow and I still have so much work to do. And it's almost 9 o'clock for me. So thank you all so much for tuning in for this live stream. Thank you for celebrating 60,000 subscribers with me. We're at 63,000 subscribers right now because of how long it took me to schedule this live stream. But again, my Kickstarter for Sparks in Iceland goes live tomorrow. You can get this lovely deluxe edition. Truly, this is the most beautiful book that I've ever created. Not just physically, like obviously it's physically beautiful, but it's also one of my favorite stories. It's such a fun story. It takes place in literally my most favorite location in the world, Iceland. If you ever have the chance to go there, please go. But yeah, just so much love has been thrown into this story and the physical copy of the book. And I want you all to hold it because it's a great book. So yeah, and oh my gosh, thank you so much for the I think it's called a super chat. I'm not skilled enough in this. Thank you so much, Catherine, for the super chat. But yeah. Okay, one last question. Would you ever consider having a hardcover of your book without a dust jacket? That would mean it would be printed through KDP because KDP doesn't offer the dust jackets. I would consider it if I don't know, so that would mean that this design would be printed on the case laminate. So this is the case laminate. Obviously, it has a different design when it's the deluxe edition. I would consider it if enough people asked for it, but frankly, I very rarely buy hardcovers right now, and if I do, it's because they're fancy editions like this. Because I, as a reader, don't really care for it. I personally don't really have a desire to create one, but if I had a bunch of people asking for a KDP hardcover of one of my books where it didn't have a dust jacket and you guys seemed really enthusiastic about it, I would do it because technically it really doesn't cost me anything to create it. I just personally, like, I don't see the point. I'm going to be totally honest, especially since I have these, or I will have these, like they're coming soon. Get it on the Kickstarter. But yeah, I'd be curious what everyone would think. But obviously that would be more affordable than this super fancy edition. But honestly, hardcovers on any print on demand company are going to be expensive in my opinion, and you just have to price them really high, and people don't want to buy high priced books, which is okay. That's why we have paperbacks. That's why we have ebooks. Anyways, I think that's officially all the questions now. So I'm going to say goodnight. I'm going to go and work until my husband gets home from work and do that grind that I was telling you guys about how I work when my daughter's sleeping. So thank you all so much. And oh my gosh, another super chat came in. Hi, thank you. This is again my mom. But yeah, thank you all guys for joining in. I'm now stumbling over my words, so I'm gonna tune out. But Thank you all. And I'll see you in the next live stream when hopefully we hit another milestone. So bye.